Ooh.
Now that is a cold open. This is Balo Raw Kombucha, strawberry and fennel flower.
Oh, okay.
I have 2 other flavors. One is a shrub, actually.
Balo. Interesting.
This one
okay.
is cherry and fig leaf. And this last one, and this is the reason I got them, shrub soda, passion fruit, macroot lime. Once I saw that, I could not say no.
Yeah.
So it's macroot lime, I believe, not lime leaf, which is quite interesting. So it's going to be a bitter component.
Okay. The strawberry fennel has kind of a very specific McDonald's strawberry milkshake flavor.
Okay.
Like malty, maybe, is what I'm getting. You said this one's strong.
It's quite astringent. So shrub, for those of you not familiar, is usually going to have vinegar as a component of it.
Ooh, yeah.
So it's quite sour, but then macroot lime is famously like a astringent, bitter, sour flavor. Not lime leaf. This is, I think, just the lime.
I want to know if I can tell what vinegar it is.
I totally get what you're saying with that being kind of a classic strawberry milkshake flavor.
Yeah. Okay. The shrub soda, it's distilled white vinegar, but I thought it was champagne vinegar. I don't hate the vinegariness of it, but it is an acquired taste. Like I got to get inoculated to it.
Ooh, the cherry fig leaf is almost like vanilla-y. I've never had a kombucha like either of those. It's like pretty neutral on acid too.
Definitely get the cherry, but it's a very faint cherry. This is, of all of them, I think the cherry is the most watered down
It's like
version
soft.
of them. Yeah. I think I'm between the strawberry and the shrub.
Oh, interesting. I think I like the cherry and the shrub. Both leaning very vanilla-y for me.
Yeah.
Like strong vanilla notes. But yeah, the macroot lime was obviously going to be my pick.
Obviously.
Once I saw that, like, I couldn't say no.
Why would you? Welcome to episode 6 of Cult Flavors Going Off. I'm Sarah.
I'm Bryn.
This is Fry.
Fry, say hello. Good enough.
Great. Excellent. He's the real star of the show. This week, we're talking to Justine Doiron. We got Justine Doiron on the show to talk about the ins and outs of publishing her new cookbook, Justine Cooks.
Which we just shot a review of. We wrote all the review beforehand, but we wanted to have a conversation with her for both that. And we're like, why not make it a podcast?
Yeah. We're keeping her on to help us answer some listener questions about vegan recipes and cooking while traveling.
Specifically for Valentine's Day.
And we're wrapping it all up with a totally fun and not at all weird game where we asked Justine to rank her first 10 Instagram recipes that she posted all the way back in 2020.
I think it only turned into some mild psychological torture.
Yeah, only mildly.
She was a lovely sport, though, and we had a great time. So
Yeah, Fry was not as lovely a sport, which you'll see in this episode. But yeah, he definitely makes a couple of appearances. But before we get into it, we need to thank our sponsors.
You.
Hey. And I just
check the
checked
number?
beforehand, and we are up to 122 subscribers as of the time of recording this episode.
20 new people since we recorded like 4 days ago.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
It's been fun. Thank you all so much for supporting the show and helping us make more cool stuff.
We really appreciate it. It's been so awesome. At the time we're recording this, I think I'm a couple days away from finishing this nap, so I'm hoping it's out by the time you're hearing this.
Sick.
We'll see.
And with that, let's get into our interview with Justine Doiron. So Justine Cooks launched October 29th, 2024.
Whenever somebody says it launched in October, I'm like, oh my gosh, that was it forever ago. But it feels like it was like 2 weeks ago.
So you took an approach to publishing your book that's a little bit different, unique from how people would traditionally publish their book. And you took it to auction.
Actually, no, I was bought in a preempt.
Oh, you were bought in a preempt. What does that mean?
So Clarkson Potter came in with a preempt offer, but they were at the same time bidding with all Penguin Random House properties. So that meant 10 Speed and Dial Press were also bidding on the book.
Okay.
And the offer was put in by Clarkson Potter because that's their usual cookbook imprint, the house that usually covers all cookbooks. So they were the ones that were leading that. But from that preempt offer, which is a flat number, I could choose whichever publishing house I wanted to work with. So Potter
interesting.
came in. Yeah. I had talked with 14 publishers. I don't recommend it.
Holy crap. 14.
Yeah, those meetings are, you send out your book proposal wide. And then the publishing houses can read your proposals, see if they want to speak with you. And those meetings are such a funny dance of I'm pitching myself the same time they're pitching themselves to me. It's like rushing a sorority.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I know. And it's a lot of time that is taken up because each call is about 45 minutes to an hour. So for 1 week, 14 hours of my week were these calls.
Oh, my God.
And you're
So
feeling
draining.
out vibes, so draining. I remember one call I basically dissociated and I felt so horrible. But you're really just feeling like who understands the book, who understands you. And so after all of those meetings, then you'd go to auction. But Potter slid in and said, here's the number we want. And I went back to my agent and I said, if they can get up to this number, it's theirs. We won't talk to anybody else. And they got up to that number. So bought in a
Wow.
preempt. Yeah. It was during a very peak virality time for my content too. So I feel like the stars aligned in
Nice.
2022. Yeah.
You did your deal in 2022. This was shortly after most of the creators were kind of all being circled by publishers.
Oh man. Yeah. I call 2021 the publishing house creator boom poaching area time because I was a tiny creator. I don't think in 2021 I had the voice or the vision for a book yet, but I was getting all this noise saying you should write a book, but just hire a recipe developer and hire writers and just like put your name on it. Like you should write a like every agent.
Got it.
Not every agent, not mine. I love her. But I got approached by a lot of people because all creators were.
Yep.
So I feel like 2022 was the end of that. That cycle's still alive and well, but I feel like I was in the middle of all these creator books getting acquired, which was really stressful
Yeah.
because I pitched and in the proposal wrote that this was not a TikTok book.
Nice.
I did not want it to be marketed as a TikTok book. I didn't think that that was the platform that was strongest for selling the book that I envisioned writing. It was a complicated time, like saying directly that I wanted this book to transition my work and not just keep my work in the same arena.
What was it contracted for like the number of recipes?
It was contracted for 100.
Okay.
Okay.
We netted out at 111. I should know.
I counted them. I could tell you. You have 115 if you count the like all the sauces and stuff.
The sauces. Yeah, they wanted sauces when we were first developing the design on individual pages. And I was like, we simply do not have space. There's so many sauces.
There were a lot.
Yeah. They're important though.
You were small in 2021. You only started, what, mid 2020?
April 2020. And I started because I knew my job was going to ask me how TikTok worked. And I wanted a way to create
Interesting.
content on TikTok that would not get me fired. And so I was doing hands and pans videos
Yep.
because my face wasn't in it. I could be anonymous. I could learn how the platform worked. But then at that time, COVID, you're so
Right.
lonely and virality is an addicting thing. And also I was creating a pretty lovely community on there. I got really into it as my COVID hobby. And what was interesting about my work back then is I was a hobby baker. I had like a YouTube channel from 2018 where I was doing I call it millennial core, but I was doing BuzzFeed tasty recreations, all
I
that
see.
stuff.
Oh yeah.
So I was always a hobby cook and I had my hospitality degree background, but I felt millions and millions of years behind anybody who liked cooking. So I just wrote it off. I was like, it's not for me. I'm not good enough, blah, blah, blah. But it was that TikTok account that pushed me to start understanding food, practicing cooking, displaying cooking, practicing staging. So in an embarrassing way, I learned on the job. I learned publicly in the year of 2020 through 2021, and then started developing a style and a development style 2022 to now. And since it was all I did, I was able to learn at a very accelerated pace. But those old videos are old
Yeah,
videos.
we went back and looked at some of them, and you were posting. Oh yeah, we definitely looked at some of those old videos. You were posting like every single day.
Right from the jump. You were like on it.
Yeah.
That was only a
Again,
month into COVID too.
We were like, how? How does she do it?
Well, so again, there was nothing to do. All my other hobbies were taken from me. And what I would do is I worked Monday through Friday, but Saturday I'd wake up at 7 a.m. And I remember the light in the winter at 7 a.m. would be so good. So I'd film like one TikTok from 7 to 9 and then
Oh,
another TikTok from 9 to, and also they didn't have to be good videos then. I had nothing to lose.
yeah. Yeah.
So a lot of my videos were oatmeal, which you guys are familiar with.
I saw some heavy bean influence early on, some bean brownie batter or something like that.
Yes. Yeah, well, the reason I started recipe developing, and this is something a lot of people know, but then people who are new to following me don't know, and it's kind of a jump scare for them. But I come from this like deeply rooted diet culture past where I was gluten-free, vegan, afraid of a lot of foods. So I started developing recipes because I couldn't fit what I wanted to fit into my dietary restrictions.
I see.
So I started cooking from a really toxic place.
Ah,
And then in that way, it became what healed my relationship with food. But it took a long time to get there. And it took a lot of, hell yeah, Fry.
sorry.
No, all good. It took a lot of facing my food fears, facing the concepts of like, why am I afraid to cook with oil? Why am I afraid to explore these different types of techniques? So I think it was my quest for excelling at the craft, exploring flavor, that made me realize I can't live in this restrictive diet world.
Sorry,
So
you came from a hospitality background. Had you been cooking previously, or what was your...
I was in PR for CPG beverage brands.
Okay.
Oh,
then
okay.
I got super motivated by the 2016 election. So I went to ABC News to do PR for ABC News.
Okay.
And then I burnt out of that very quickly because I was working their Sunday show. So the most busy days of my job were Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So I really had no life. And then I moved to nonfiction at Discovery Networks because while I was working mostly the true crime and TLC Travel Channel angle, there was a pathway to Food Network. There was a pathway to Cooking Channel.
I see.
But I really just stayed in the nonfiction sector. And then they politely asked me to leave when my TikTok account got too big.
Oh, shoot. How big was your
Interesting.
TikTok account when they asked you to go?
Well, the Discovery was going through a lot of things. They asked people to disclose any moonlighting. And my TikTok account was around 750,000
Okay.
at that time. And everybody at my work knew about my account. Everybody thought it was like this fun, silly thing. So I left. I was asked to leave my job when I had around 750K on TikTok, like 100K on Instagram.
Wow. Were you scared when they asked you to go, or?
Yeah,
Were you-
I remember I cried to the HR director.
Oh my God.
Big crier. It was, and because there was so much legal back and forth, they at first told me that it was a conflict of interest with Food Network. And I said, there's no way my tiny Instagram account is a conflict of interest with Food Network. It just doesn't compare. And then they backtracked on that and said, oh, well, we're worried that companies will solicit to you as Justine snacks
Yeah.
and then think that you're going to have an in with Discovery Networks, which again didn't entirely make sense since I was just a low-level publicist.
Right.
So then finally they said, you can do it, but you just can't make any money from it. And I said, you're actively working against your employees here. I'm out. I cried to my HR director because I set the company's brand standard for influencers. So any other person who's breaking into content creation, I was the standard that they had to set, which is basically, we will fire you.
Oh.
Yeah. So I cried to the HR director and said, I wish you will advocate more for the next person. And then I very vividly remember my 27th birthday. I had left my job 3 weeks earlier, sitting at the restaurant with my fiance, just being in my head saying, this is the worst decision I've ever made. I've ruined my life. That summer was a very scary summer.
How'd you get through it though?
That was still when I was in my deep learning phase. And like, I look back at some of those videos and I was like, what was I doing? But
Don't we all?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. But I think it was just, I got ignited with a hunger of like, I have all the time in the world. This is no longer something that I'm going to half-ass.
Yeah.
It really freed up my time to dive into this the way that I would not have been able to if I was just doing it on the weekends.
That's very much where we've just entered, and it's an interesting little venture, I guess.
Yeah.
Half nightmare, half like the exact thing we wanted. So I totally get that. Scary.
It's scary, and also nobody talks about how much self-discipline is its own practice.
Yep.
Because you're fighting between self-crushing pressure from yourself and then having to be disciplined through that, which is exhausting.
Yep. And sometimes you just want somebody to tell you what to do, but there's nobody there to tell you what to do. So you're just like, I guess I have to make my own timeline.
I wish everybody knew that every content creator's dream is to hire their own boss or brand strategist or creative director.
A producer would be so nice. Like,
just tell me what to do.
Just once.
It's so hard to do that. And now you're this really successful Instagram, TikTok.
Immediately. Just as soon as you quit.
Cooking celebrity. Immediately.
Everything's great.
Yeah. What was that route from like leaving to, was it sustainable pretty early on, or what does that look like?
Money-wise, it was sustainable because I had monetized my blog, which thank God, because people were visiting my blog. That was making me my salary. I had a few brand partners that carried me through that time. But it took about a year, again, because I wasn't a professionally trained chef who just showed up and started filming myself. I was both teaching myself how to film, how to cook in a way that was appealing to people in my own style. So it took about a year until I call it my renaissance. But I quit the summer of 2021, and then I had my renaissance in the summer of 2022.
Okay.
And we had really embedded ourselves in Brooklyn. We had moved back to Brooklyn from Hoboken, where we spent most of the pandemic. I was getting more acquainted with the Grand Army Farmers Market. I was learning about the accessibility to different ingredients in my neighborhood. I was getting really excited about things. I was learning from great cooks in the neighborhood. So much of what I've learned has been because of where I live, and I'm very grateful for that. And then I started sprinkling a bit more of, I call it lore or stories into my content. It's something I moved away from, but for a long time it was a cornerstone of what I did.
Totally. That was like right when we started following you, I think. Like there was a lot of like lore dump early in. Like, all right, we're here.
Some lore that didn't need to be shared, let's be honest.
That's how it always works.
I think how it always works, because people will signal what they want by likes, shares, a video doing well. And so then you feel trapped into doing that same thing over and over and over.
Yeah.
And so, some things I really wanted to share, some things I thought made really good videos, but then I thought every single video I did had to be something, either deep or funny or made up. And I got really mad. We're skipping forward another year. I got really mad in 2023. I said, well, why can't my food stand on its own 2 feet? And so that's when I stepped away from stories. And you definitely feel like the algorithm shifts. It's still trying to figure you out. Like you did something for so long. But doing that for so long was kind of a disservice to me because some things I just didn't. I will look back at videos and be like, that's so deeply inauthentic. I did not want that video to be what it was. But I felt trapped at that time. And so in 2023, when I felt known enough that I had a platform that had its own voice that people were sharing either via word of mouth or, it was growing steadily. I was like, okay, now I can let my food stand on its own 2 feet, which was perfect timing right before the book came out.
Had you gone to culinary school? I feel like maybe you wrote this in the book and I missed it.
I did not go to culinary school. In my hospitality program, there were culinary classes that you had to take that were lab classes. And then you could then elect to go further into the food and beverage concentration. So I took a lot of, I would say, culinary knowledge classes, like service operations, and then wine and food pairing. So again, an on-paper class. And beers. Beers was great. I loved beers because now I go into any brewery and anytime somebody mansplains to me,
amazing.
The best way to shut them up is be like, oh, so it's top fermenting, and then they can't tell you, and it's wonderful.
Amazing.
But there were a few lab classes that gave me my baseline.
Yeah.
But I was so intimidated by my peers that I just was like, you know what? Not for me. Not going to pursue the food and beverage track.
And now here you are.
Now here I am. And it was actually so sweet. Some of those exact same peers from college, because I went into college with no background in food, but excited to learn. And all of the classmates around me were like cooking for 10 years. And I won Best New Chef of Missouri in 2012. Like, I just felt like I was in a world that I didn't belong in. And some of those classmates who won Best New Chef of Missouri or whatever that is, came to my book tour.
Oh,
And I
Aw.
thought it was really sweet. It was really sweet to know that the people you thought saw all your warts and all and all your poor knife skills when you had them don't see that in you anymore. It was
Yeah.
nice.
oh, the poor knife skills.
Oh my God.
When I started posting videos right away, because I also am teaching myself how to cook through
Yeah,
this
you were-
TikTok channel.
The first cookbook you did was like, I just want to learn how to cook, which
Yeah.
I thought was such an interesting approach to it.
And
Nice.
the amount of people that would jump into my comments early on and be like, your knife skills are terrible. Oh, God. I'm so sorry.
What's so funny is, okay, my hot take. There's performative knife skills.
Yes, there
There's-
are.
Yeah.
If you're clapping the board a bunch, that is performative.
Yes.
Sorry, that is.
And it can be safe and correct, but it can also be performative. And then there's like mechanical knife skills, I still have what I call beginner knife skills. And I'm probably going to use beginner knife skills till the day I die, which is where you keep the tip on the board and then you just slide it down.
Yep.
Because it works for me. It's efficient. I'm a home cook.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I call that like mechanical knife skills. And I think people get really caught up in the two.
Yeah.
And my whole thing is like, if your knives are a decent amount of sharpness and you're not using a serrated knife to cut an apple, I won't be mad. I
Yeah.
won't be mad.
I'm also of the opinion that like it doesn't have to be lightning fast. You can take your time in the kitchen. It's okay. You can enjoy it. You don't
So
have to
much-
go as fast as you can.
So much of cooking content is like people showing off. And so people think that if they're going to be good at cooking, they have to do it in the same way, which is so frustrating.
It's something that plays into my imposter syndrome as well, because I'm a very, very confident recipe developer. I am not a very confident show person.
Yeah.
So I've been asked to do cooking demos, etc. And I can yap and I can yap and cut, but I can't look up. So it's been an interesting transition. And I agree, there's a lot of performative cooking out there.
So fascinating. We've gotten a couple requests to do like cooking demos, and I'm just like, there's nothing I want to do less. Like, it's so different doing it to a camera than doing it to a group of people.
Yeah.
And even when I'm cooking for my friends, I get stressed. I mean, my new trick is to invite my friends into the kitchen so we're all kind of
Yes,
multitasking.
it's great. I love that.
Yeah.
Here's your job. Don't pay attention to me. Do your own thing.
That, and also whenever I get invited to a Thanksgiving, I used to be a perpetual Thanksgiving guest because people always said, "Oh, cooking's your job. Let me cook for you." And this was the first year I actually got to host, which was nice. But every time I go to a Thanksgiving and the host would kick people out of the kitchen, I was like, no, like that's the whole point, is
Right.
for people to be together. And also distracted. But I'm just a nervous cook because I want everything to turn out well, and it takes focus.
There was one time that I was cooking something and someone was like, "You look like you hate what you're doing. You look like you hate being in the kitchen and you look like you don't want to be in there." And I'm like, "No, I just have angry focus face." Like,
Bitch food face. Come
I'm
on.
so like hyper focused on the thing that I'm doing that I know I look like I'm frustrated and angry. I guarantee you I'm not. I just am zeroed in.
That comment is also so of the internet. Like
Yep.
they take one cue and interpret it as
Project
everything.
immediately.
Yes. Yeah.
Jeez. But back to the book. So when you were approached to do a cookbook, was your immediate thought yes, or was it like this can just live on the internet? How did you feel about
When
that?
I was first approached in 2021, I was like, no. If I'm gonna write a book, I'm gonna be the person with the idea for the book. Nobody is gonna assign me an idea and say, which is how a lot of cookbooks get made, is people get assigned ideas
Totally.
and then they have to develop it. And there's nothing wrong with that. It was just I was being told that my platform was going to be the selling point of the book. So I said, if it's my platform, then the idea is going to be mine. And so I said, I'm just going to table this. And I tabled the idea of a book for a year, which was really hard because also everybody tells you that content creation is fleeting
Yep.
and nothing is permanent, and you need to have a book so that you have a permanent presence.
It's like a sign of real success is
Yeah.
like getting a book or something like that, or a Food Network cooking show is so often referenced to us. It's like, why would we want that?
We have our
Yeah,
own
and
show. We have our own thing.
and again, like it comes from your audience, it comes from advisors. It's such a bizarre
And they all mean well
pointing
by it.
thing.
It's just, I don't think they understand the context.
I also don't think they understand the work. It's a whole other can of worms.
Yeah.
But I just tabled it for a year because I was like, this pressure, I don't work well in a pressure box. And then the idea for my book, which turned in, the thesis stayed in the book, but the title changed completely. But the idea for the book hit me like a ton of bricks in 2023. And that's when we sold it. And I started working in January of 2023 on the book that was supposed to be called Homemade, 2 words. I thought I was a genius.
Okay.
I was like, nobody's ever made this pun before. And then I looked and it's SEO wise the worst title I could have chosen.
Oh, yeah.
Because also it wasn't true to the book. But my concept was I didn't grow up in a food family. I didn't grow up cooking. But learning how to cook, developing my style is what has made me build my own sense of home, my own sense of belonging. That was the thesis of the book. As we got further into book development and as the recipes changed and got a little bit more ambitious, I think culturally, like there's a lot of Middle Eastern influence, a lot of East and South Asian influence, we realized that the thesis of the book was actually me, which is very daunting as a debut book. I would have never put my name on the cover if my publisher hadn't said, this is what we need to do. So I tried to keep the same sense of home and belonging and cooking as something that is very personal and something that you should evolve yourself as the reader and the recipe maker. But we lost the title, lost the main third point.
I do like one of the main points that really spoke to me, I guess, when I was reading through the book was when you talk about how this isn't meant to be a cookbook that you cook out of verbatim. You want people to take it. You want people to change it. You want people to make it their own thing eventually.
And we immediately did the opposite.
Which is like,
Sorry.
yeah, we can't do that for our reviews, but
It's the formula. We'll change it. No, I'm just kidding.
but I really liked that you were encouraging people to do that in your messaging.
No, that's first off valid that you have to follow the rules.
Yeah.
I feel like people would riot if you didn't follow the rules. But second, I think that so many recipes that I've read in my life have been starting points for other things. And those things, it might be a burger recipe that in my mind changes into a vegetable side. Like flavors and building flavors comes from so many different points of inspiration, whether that's visual inspiration or reading another recipe. And so if this book can even just like tip you off to, for example, the romesco chickpeas, putting cinnamon in romesco, if somebody's like, I fuck with that, and then they turn it into a yogurt dip, then I feel like the book has served a good purpose. You know, there's so many ways. First off, not a lot of people are like you guys where they're cooking through cookbooks.
Right.
I know so many people who collect books, cooked like 2 recipes.
Right.
Yep.
And then everything else is this coffee table
Yep.
flipping through.
That's what
And so-
our collection was for years and years until Sarah was like, I'm going to start reviewing these. And then suddenly we were using every single one of them.
It's admirable because I don't reach that level. There are 3 cookbooks that I can say I've cooked 20 plus recipes out of, but only 3.
Yeah. And it takes a long time too. That's a lot of it, I think, is people move on to something else.
Time, organization,
Yeah.
money. That's where that little like how I wanted people to use the book blurb came from, is because I know people use cookbooks in 85 million different ways.
Yeah. Here's a good question.
Better be good now.
Yeah. If you were to write another cookbook, would you do it the same way that you did it this time?
No.
Okay.
So going through this with planning my wedding,
Ooh.
Oh, right.
yeah, you plan a wedding and it's actually a very similar experience. You're doing this once. You're coming in as the newbie. You don't know how anything works. And you're working with a group of other people, whether it's like your florist or your DJ or your venue, who do it once a week twice a week. Like it's another Tuesday for them. So you come in with these certain expectations and they tell you, oh, that's not how we do it. And then you have to reckon with yourself of like, oh, are they saying that's not how we do it because it's easiest for them? Or is that really not how they do it? Like, how far can I push to get what I want with this particular vision? I thought a wedding was a great comparison because with a book, I get another chance. Like with a wedding, hopefully you don't.
Yeah.
But I was coming into this world where publishers were like, well, that's not how we do it. Or that's just not how book design works. Like all these different things. And so my book writing process, we were going to be editing in waves where I would be turning in 2 chapters a month, which is a very aggressive timeline.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Wow.
Because head notes in and of themselves, you can write a head note, but you can't write one well over and over and over and over again.
Yep.
And so we had turned in 2 waves of my recipes. And that there was an editorial assistant who was coming back with really sharp edits. But I realized like I can't have 2 chapters of the book done and dusted in February and then turn in the manuscript in August and have never looked at those chapters again. Like so much can change in the voice of the book and the cohesion of the book in that time. So I then had to go to my editor and be like, you're amazing, you're wonderful. I need to turn the manuscript in as a whole chunk.
Yeah. Wow.
She had concerns because I was a first-time author, but they let me do that, which was great. And then I brought on Alex Beggs as my recipe editor and my head notes editor. She's fantastic. And then I brought on Casey Elsas to help me write the introduction, edit the introduction. And I thought I also brought them on as like essentially my emotional support doulas as I brought this book baby into the world, because both of them have worked in so many cookbooks, and I just needed that support outside of Clarkson Potter to turn in a really clean, cohesive manuscript.
That's awesome.
And my biggest complaint is that a lot of people don't realize that cookbooks are not written by one person. It's just, it's the one, ghostwriting is always acceptable, but people don't realize that so many cookbooks are very, very ghostwritten.
Right.
Yep.
We know a few of the ghostwriters or co-authors that sometimes get attribution, but
I go into the acknowledgments knowing the lore, and I'm like, wow, they really didn't get acknowledged at all.
yeah.
But
Hopefully they got at least compensated for that.
oh, they always do. It's not a bad thing. It's just I try to be very vocal that like my writing is not just me sitting down at a laptop. Like I was edited, I was helped, I was definitely bolstered through the process.
Yeah. There's a whole team.
So you're doing this while doing your wedding. How was that? I mean, especially with the tour and everything else.
Oh yeah, it's so interesting how your personal life goes behind your work life sometimes. And that's because your personal life will always be there and your work life feels a lot more volatile. But we've been engaged for 2 years because I just pushed the wedding. We were going to ideally get married in the fall. That was like always our dream. But my book was coming out in the fall. And so we pushed our wedding to the spring. We got engaged 3 months into me writing the book. And I told Eric, I was like, we're not getting married this year. It's just not happening.
Those are really all the questions that I have about the book stuff. I have one final question for it, but do you have anything else?
Is there anything you feel like you wish people would ask about? Like a story you don't get to tell that you want to?
Oh, no, I've told this story because people have asked about it, but I do think it's fun that we almost didn't shoot the cover photo.
Right.
I did not think about the cover. I had no vision for the cover. And when we were talking about the beans chapter, I told my publisher, oh, ricotta salata beans are really ugly. Like, let's not shoot them.
Yeah.
And then it was the last day of our photo shoot. And my editor was like, you don't have a book cover. And my food stylist was like, well, we haven't shot this recipe. And so we shot it really quickly. And that's how the cover came to be.
How did the tour go? Like we first met you when you were here in LA, very briefly.
I was continuously surprised that people would just come out because they wanted to chat. They wanted to meet. And it is funny because you're in your own little bubble where you feel like you're doing the most important work ever. And then the rest of the world just continues for 2 weeks. So it's exhausting, but it went really well. It felt really fun. I think it did a service to the book getting it sold through so many indies which was a huge priority for me.
Yes.
I wanted it to be an indie book.
It sounded like your schedule was constantly changing during that time as well. Like, I think you were going to be here longer, and then you ended up getting some extra stops in or something like that. Like, it sounds like it was pretty hectic.
Yeah, LA was cut short because I had to stay in Austin a beat longer, and then I had to go to Seattle earlier. So it is funny because they're such small events, so people are like, oh, we can pivot them, or we can add another signing, or we can break this signing up. I was really stressed because Seattle, we had 500 RSVPs because they didn't require a ticket. It was just an RSVP. So of course someone's going to be like, oh, I'll RSVP just in case.
Right.
Yeah.
And so then they decided to stagger the 500 RSVPs into 3 staggered talks and signings.
Oh, wow.
Dang.
Horrible. Do not recommend. Don't let anybody stagger your RSVPs. I had a great time, but it was like we started at 4 and we wrapped at 11. Everything was always changing. Book tour is a beast, but I understand why publishers like it. It's old school, but it also gives every book breathing room to, have its pub week, have its big time.
Do you have any advice for folks who want to write a cookbook someday?
Are you guys in the market?
No, not right now, but maybe someday. I mean, we have very strong opinions about what we would do, but
it's going to be a different thing.
Yeah.
No pressure coming from my end. I'd say my number one piece of advice, and this goes across content creators or people who have absolutely no audience and are just very interested in, sharing their work, whether they're restaurant work or personal recipe development, whatever. I think you need to have a strong thesis going in no matter what in your proposal, and a strong desire for that thesis to carry you through 2, 3, 4+ years of work. Because no book should be started just because you want the end product. You have to want the through product to exist, the writing to exist, directing to the same message that you think is important to put in the world that is a new perspective. It's the same advice that people always give when you're doing anything, is like you need a very powerful why. And the why just can't be, oh, I want a book. The why has to be, I want a book that says this thing. So that's my macro advice. Then my next advice is get an agent.
Get an agent.
A lot of people sell without an agent nowadays. It's kind of crazy.
What does an agent do for you, though? Is that like they just tell you what to do, where to be, when?
That's more manager, I think, right?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's my man. Wow, I have so many women in my life who are wonderful and just tell me where to go, what to do, and what to be.
It's the dream.
Best.
Yeah.
They don't tell me what content to make, and one day. But my agent, of course, shepherded me through the publishing process. My proposal was done when I met her, but sometimes agents will help you develop and write your proposal. But she had all the publishing connections. She negotiated and contracted my deal. And then what they do is they are basically the liaison between you and your publisher, your editor, for any tough conversations that come up. Because I really am averse to what I call the adults are talking conversations, which is where my manager might be talking with a brand and I don't know anything about it. Like, I like to be in the loop, but sometimes, like, for example, the changing of the title, my editor talked to my agent first. My agent liaised it to me in a way that it wasn't so on the spot. And that's really important. And then they also negotiate your contracts with your food stylist, your photographer, should you be outsourcing that, which I was lucky enough to outsource that because my photography skills are not up to par for a book.
Photography skills are hard.
I could talk all day about photography skills. Like, I feel like they're such an obstacle to what our actual goal is, but it seems like people like you have really like honed in on the craft, and that's so daunting to me. Wow.
So another like lore story that nobody knows about is I was not a visual person. I'm an auditory and verbal person. And I had to change my brain to learn how to take photos, to learn how to film stuff. And now I'm a much more visual person. And I'm very into neuroscience and all that because I think it is interesting that auditory and verbal stuff is now harder for me, but visual stuff is now easier.
Interesting.
That's fascinating.
I'm very into brain plasticity. We can talk about it on my science podcast.
Justine Sciences. Justine Experiments.
Coming soon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Last question. Do you have plans to write another cookbook?
Book 2, Proposal, is currently out in the world.
Okay.
Really? Okay.
I don't want to disclose anything about it, but I think a lot of people make the mistake of writing the same book twice.
Mm-hmm.
Not the same book, but the same, like I talk about thesis concept. I think a lot of people write a book. You said it, I did not. But yeah, because it's easy. You have the same style, and it's just, if you look at it as 100 recipes, it's easy to do the same thing. But I'm excited to do a different book as my second book.
Nice.
Cool. I'm excited to see it.
We love books with like a real point of view.
Yes.
And that's, like you said, a lot of people have the idea given to them and there's really no point of view in it. It's just like, here, I have a reason to have a commercial relationship with you. So I'm going to just put this out here. And Justine Cooks was definitely like, there was a clear point of view. I mean, it so closely meshed with what we knew of you from your channel.
Yep.
And then it was really cool to like get to meet you along the way and like realize it like, oh, that's just, a lot of people put so much on. And I'm sure there's like a heightened version of everything. Like we're certainly heightened in our content, but like it's so cool to like see that click with reality.
It is weird putting people from your screen into real life. So when we met, I was a little like starstruck and then also like be
Oh my
chill.
God, the same was for us.
Oh, that's so funny.
We're in a freight elevator now. Like we just met and now we're enclosed.
Also, I was sweating. LA is hot.
Yeah,
And so
it is.
I went to Eric and I was like, I think I smell really bad. But
I
yeah, that
didn't
was
spell you, so
Welcome
great.
to LA.
Well, then our meet cute went great. We did great.
Okay. We have some listener questions that we thought would be a good fit for you. They don't know
Cool.
that we're giving them to you. So they're not really framed this way, but I think they'll be great.
Cool.
Okay. First is from Sabina.
Hi, my name is Sabina. I'm a first-time caller, and I found you guys probably about like a month and a half ago on YouTube, and I'm loving your channel. So my question is, if you were cooking for your partner and you guys were long distance and you're getting together for Valentine's Day specifically, I'm like flying to California, if you had super limited kitchen tools, because I love my boyfriend, but he's not a knife collector like me, and I can't obviously travel with my knives. If you were in that situation with limited tools, what would you make that would still make a really nice, special, romantic, flavorful, checking all of the boxes meal for Valentine's Day? Love the show. Thank you so much, and I hope you answer my question. Bye.
Did you get all that?
I did.
Great.
Okay, I'm going to make you guys answer as well because I feel like she needs your input. And also, I think as a couple, you guys might have a different perspective. And also, I don't eat meat, so that changes things.
But also, who needs meat?
Yeah, I made that joke once. I was like, who needs protein? And the audience wasn't there for the ride.
There's a lot of great sources of protein that aren't meat. We famously don't love like beef in particular, but yeah, we're vegetarian friendly.
Actually, yeah, I've picked up on that. I feel like if you had to do a meat protein, what is your guys' meat protein? And then I'll answer the question.
Pork, absolutely.
yeah, for sure pork.
Wow.
In particular, pork shoulder.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not what I was expecting.
What were you gonna guess?
I'd probably go for the chicken route because my argument in my brain is that you guys would say it was the most adaptable to different uses.
Okay. Yeah.
That's true.
Eh.
But pork is the flavor. Like if it's a meat focused dish, pork is the one that we want the flavor of.
Yeah, I was putting like a white people stereotype on you guys. Sorry about that.
No,
That's
it's
okay.
fine. It's fine.
Understandable.
But her question, I recently have had this struggle where I went to an Airbnb and it was an absolute, I wouldn't say nightmare. It was a big challenge to cook and you have to adapt. I'd say, especially if your partner's coming from out of town, it's time to dip into the luxury farmers market shopping. Go pick up some nice lettuces, some nice herbs. Your ingredients are going to be your like superpower here because your kitchen tools are not. If it were me, I'd dip into that winter citrus season and make a nice little salmon confit where you just slab of salmon, a lot of good olive oil, citrus pieces. I'm thinking grapefruit, orange. I kind of futz with this. It's not a proper confit, but I definitely put in some lime juice, some fish sauce. I'm trying to think, garlic, shallot, and just let that go until the shallots are nice and cooked. So you can still have a night with your partner and you're not like, oh my God, I'm going to mess up the protein.
Yeah.
And then when I said dipping into your quote unquote luxury vegetables, that just means like the really good chicories that you can find right now. make a really nice classic.
A lot of bitter
vinaigrette,
lettuces in
and
the
that,
early spring, late winter. Heavy greens too.
yeah, and that with like a sweet dressing and maybe some pomegranate because that's still around is
Oh,
like
yeah.
beautiful. And I'm thinking pink for the season. And then a soft plug, I have a rosemary orange cake that's so easy and so rich and very killer. And it does not require a lot of stuff, and you can make it ahead at your place or wherever you are and bring it. That's where I'd go. One solid main, one beautiful salad, and a very decadent dessert.
Yum.
What about you guys?
I love that idea. What I would do depends on how long you've been dating. Don't set the bar too high, you know?
That is true of you. Actually.
Give them pasta and red sauce or like cacio e pepe, you know? Nothing too crazy. Lower the bar for yourself a little bit.
I'm thinking of very minimal tool dishes that would go together. Some of which would be like anything where there's a poached chicken that you can like break down with your hands. Really easy. Speaking of Justine's comment there, Ryangbanji is a like chili dressed dish. So it's like actually kind of bright red, which has that kind of like Valentine's-y thing. And then there's like basic noodle dishes that just use simple ingredients. Dandanmyeon, I think, would go really well with it. And that's like, especially here in California, very easy to come by all those ingredients. And there are mostly shelf like stable ones, so you can pretty easily pull things out.
Yeah. I like Justine's the best.
Yeah, of course.
I don't know. If somebody were to come to me with a well-made cacio e pepe, that's love.
Right? When we were doing Eric Wareheim's Foodheim cookbook, he made a bowl out of
Parmesan crisp.
And he put the cacio e pepe in the Parmesan crisp. And I was like, classy
That's pretty
as fuck,
cool, yeah.
Classy as fuck.
That, you know what's sad? Going back to cookbooks being coffee table, that is a book I've never cooked out of, and I've owned it for years.
I recommend it. I really liked cooking out
It's
of it.
very
He's
fun.
got a fig leaf wrapped fish that I think is very good.
Ooh. Yeah, that book that's a book with personality.
Yes.
I love that book.
Yeah.
It definitely has a point of view. It's a little bit all over the place. Like he just seems like he likes a lot of things and is kind of like picking things at random to put in there, but they all come with this like maximum flavor, a little bit of polish. Like he's definitely like a luxury boy, but like he makes it more approachable, I think.
Very luxury boy.
Yeah, that's the other funny thing about cookbooks is you learn a lot about a person if you read all their recipes. You're like, oh, luxury.
Got it.
Hopefully that helps, Sabina. We have one other one from Elizabeth, and I thought you'd be particularly good for this one because it's about accidentally vegan recipes.
Hello, I'm Elizabeth. I have loved your podcast. I am so glad that the YouTube algorithm has recommended it to me. And I've loved watching your cookbook reviews as well. I was wondering if you had any like favorite accidentally vegan or vegan recipes. I saw you really recommended the Mission Vegan cookbook in your all-time faves for 2024, and was wondering if you had more recommendations along those lines. I love hearing how you think about food and how you describe food, but unfortunately cannot make many of your recipes. So I would love to like connect the thoughts you have about food with some recipes I can try on my own, and apply some of the tastes and values you guys have about food to things that I would make. Anyways, thank you so much.
Actually, immediately reminded that I fucked up my whole answer to the last one. The dragon fruit ice buckwheat noodles from Mission Vegan are like bright pink.
Yeah.
Like perfect for Valentine's Day.
Yeah, but they're hard to like. You need
a fork.
Some specialized equipment.
You need a fork
and time. Lots of time, which is why I'm saying like lower the bar, make it easier. Make it easier for yourself.
Wait, are you making the noodles in that recipe?
No. You just buy buckwheat noodles, and then it's the ice is dragon fruit colored, but it's mushroom powder, so it's like a very savory dish. But you get like warm and cold together, and it's very fun.
It's a lot of work, but it's tasty.
And it's bright pink.
It's like the devil and the angel on somebody's shoulder. Like it's a lot of work, but it's really great.
Yeah.
Ooh, this is interesting. It's funny because this question is absolutely directed at you guys because she's very interested in your POV on cooking. However, my thing about accidentally vegan recipes is I feel like they're much easier to find if you look for recipes that are very plant focused and excited about the plants first. And then I'll read through an ingredient list and be like, oh, and there's no meat.
Yeah.
So in terms of searching for those recipes, I always like to go to an index and look for vegetables first in a cookbook and then kind of see where that takes me. But in terms of applying your all's food perspective, I don't know. I'd love to hear your thoughts on either swaps or where they can find more recipes.
Well, I was going to say that several that we really enjoyed that I don't think we were looking for vegan specifically, but the Justine Cook's book has several that are at least vegetarian, if not vegan.
Yeah, not to plug Justine
Nduja,
too much.
No, thank you.
The Nduja but not
The
stuck
Nduja
out
but
to
not
me. Yeah.
is a really good one that is, I believe, vegan.
I think so because I pulled fish sauce out of that. That recipe was tested over and over and over again because if I'm doing a mashed tofu or a tofu scramble, which essentially Nduja but not is a tofu scramble, I wanted it to be a tofu scramble that you can't get anywhere else that could be stirred into pastas or put on toast or like used in all these different ways. So I then realized like, oh, this should probably be vegan because at the end of the day, it's a tofu based dish. And those are the people who are usually relying on that ingredient. So thanks for plugging my book, guys.
You got it.
I always forget how great beans are. I don't know. And this is also coming back to Justine. Like, you forget how great beans are. And then I had like it was just a simple black bean thing. Maybe it was even a black bean taco or something. But I was like, this is accidentally vegan. Amazing.
You're just saying black bean tacos as a concept?
I'm saying like beans in general.
You know what? Beans are vegan.
Okay, to piggyback on this though, I forget about edamame all the time.
Edamame.
I forget about edamame all the time and just throw that on a grain bowl, throw that in wow, I'm really not helping. Edamame, also great.
Yeah. They stand on their own really well.
My last thought about like accidentally vegan food is I made something truly accidentally vegan that I'm going to be putting on YouTube eventually.
Okay.
Soft plug. It takes forever to edit.
Yeah.
But
don't we know?
it is, oh yeah. But it was a red lentil tomato soup that was just supposed to be like fennelly, tomatoey, like really good. And then I was frying polenta to put on top of it. And when you deep fry something or just add a little like hook of, I don't want to say, I almost said naughty, but it's not. When you add like a little element of, oh, I wouldn't normally do that to this, but it can still be plant-based. I think that's when stuff becomes accidentally vegan and not this intentional vegan bootable.
Yeah.
You talking about lentil soup reminded me of, there's this one recipe that Claire Saffitz wrote back in 2018 that I return to all the time. It's like the heartiest stew, but it is vegan. It's called vegan coconut lentil soup.
Oh,
and
yeah,
it goes
that is
so
really good.
hard. And with like lime pickled onions on top, it is phenomenal. It's one of the best like winter dishes. Definitely in the same vein as something like a chili, but it's more South Indian, I think, particularly. It's so good.
I love when you like can read a title of a recipe and already feel at least 3 of the elements layered in your mind. Like, oh, that sounds so good.
It introduced me to one of my favorite combinations, which is coconut milk and tomato, which are just so good together. And I would have never like inherently put them together.
Interesting. I've married tomato paste cooked down, then added coconut milk, but I've never done just straight tomato.
So this is onion, garlic cloves, ginger, coconut oil, curry powder, cayenne pepper, coconut milk, red lentils, shredded coconut, frozen spinach, and a can of crushed tomatoes.
It's really good.
That's extremely, if you want my tasted accidentally vegan things, like I think it was called vegan at the time I tried it, but a friend gave it to me and was just like, don't think about that, just go for it. And it's so good.
It's also one of those things that tastes better the next day too.
Absolutely.
Because it's a
Stew.
Yep, stew.
I love
a good stew that tastes better the next day.
I love a leftover.
Yeah.
I know there's a great leftovers debate. Love a leftover.
Do you have a favorite like leftover dish?
Oh, well, I'm going to be plugging my own stuff. I have a kabocha squash soup that has chickpeas and farro in it, but you toast the farro before. And so it's just like, and then you roast fennel, like you hard roast fennel. So it's all charred and it goes in. And then the next day it is super thick, so you do have to thin it out with water, but the flavors have just like,
Oh, yeah.
boom.
We just got done eating like 3 days straight of kimchi jjigae leftovers, which was the best.
Ooh.
I love kimchi jjigae so much.
I've been craving tteokbokki for weeks.
Hell yeah.
But it's just like the problem is if it's not in my freezer, it simply does not get brought into my home.
Have you, what kind of tteokbokki do you make? Are you doing like fried or simmered?
Oh, simmered.
Okay.
Yeah.
You gotta try fried. It's so good.
Fried, and then what do you do with it?
So there's a Paikjongwon recipe. This is how I learned about it. So I think it's translated as something like oil style tteokbokki, but it's more like an appetizer. It's just cooked until they get chewy, but you have all the spicy like soy sauce based sauce coating it. It's delicious. Also, I think vegan. So.
And it's like, is it like sticky?
It is sticky. It's like mozzarella stick chewy. It's so good, but like lightly brown on the outside.
This craving has been weird. Like I've never had a craving be this strong for this long. Okay.
I'll send you the link, I guess.
Thank you for my accidentally vegan tteokbokki.
Cool. I think those are all of our questions. Would you like to play a game before we leave?
It's so creepy.
Am I allowed to leave?
Do you want to play a game?
No, I'm down. Let's play a game.
Okay. The game we have for you is ranking 1 through 10 your first 10 Instagram posts.
So Sarah's got a list for you.
Yeah.
Like the recipes, I believe. I
The
think each of
recipe.
them is
Oh
a
my
recipe, right?
You horrible people. I'm gonna be brave. I'm so
You
ready.
got this. How are we doing this? What's the rating system? Is this tier list? Is this
It's
like
the
1 through 10?
1 through 10.
Okay.
So
So
like,
Like
you
the
can't.
you don't know what's
TikTok
coming next.
trend.
Got it. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
But you
Oof.
can't do, like, once you've filled in a space, you can't use that space.
That number. I'll keep
Oh,
track of
God.
the numbers.
Ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. The first recipe that you have listed on your Instagram is for peach waffles.
Oh, honest, like 2.
2. Why
2?
2?
Because I made,
So, like, 1 is the best, 10
Yeah.
is the worst.
Yeah.
yeah, they slap still to date. Like, I know it's just blending oats and egg whites and a peach together, but how delicious, how fun,
Yeah.
how easy.
So, peach waffles, 2, starting strong.
Oh my God.
Your next one, strawberry shortcake bars.
They were ice cream bars.
Yep.
10. That recipe didn't work.
Why didn't it work?
But it did work. It was just a lot of labor, a lot
Oh.
of freezing. It was like tasty, but it was just poor. Like I was baby. It was developed just for fun.
Totally.
Got it. So
Yeah.
you went a little bit too hard into the, like, trying to prove yourself.
I think I was more focused on virality at the time, and I also thought TikTok. So my Instagram started because people just wanted the recipe, and I just needed a place to write the recipe. I didn't know how to blog.
Yeah.
And so I would just screenshot my TikTok videos and put it on Instagram. And so I thought TikTok was for like 12-year-olds. I was making recipes that I thought teenagers would like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Third post, turmeric toast. Do you remember that one?
Let's put it in the 5s. It's tasty.
Okay. Why
Don't
are you
think
laughing?
anyone should just be eating onions and turmeric and coconut milk, but go ahead.
Got it. Early development phase.
That was very true to how I would eat. I would eat like stuff like that and then fry tofu and put it on top.
Awesome. Churro squares.
Oh, 1.
Really?
So good. For years, that was like the recipe that I was like, this is my peak. They're gluten-free, but they're made with oat flour, but
Okay.
the oat flour doesn't get gummy, and they're like got a soft mouth feel.
The first recipe of yours we ever made was your lemon oat cookies.
Lemon ricotta.
Yeah,
I
those
do
were
remember
so
that.
good.
I remember that.
I had never cooked with oat flour before, but I was like, shit, I got to spend more time with oat flour.
I honestly was such an oat flour girl because I just had oatmeal in my house all the time, and it was so easy to just blend it up. Yeah. Churro squares, they deserve the 1.
Okay.
Oh, awesome. All right.
All right. So we've got 1, 2, 5, and 10 so far.
Things are not looking good for when we narrow things down.
The next one is healthy-ish cookie dough.
I made so many healthy-ish cookie doughs that were basically a loose marzipan. because I was like, women love almond flour, right?
Yes.
Let's stick it in the 9s.
Okay. Next is Taki fries.
Ooh. What a time of my life.
That sounds like the opposite of healthy-ish cookie dough.
For the viewers at home, I was making recipes for 12-year-olds. Let's bring it in, bring it into context. Let's stick that at the 8. Taki fries were fine. It was like lime zest, chili powder.
Oh, so it's just turning fries into like a Taki situation.
Yes.
I see. I was picturing powdered Takis all over fries.
Oh, that would have been good too, probably.
That would easily be in the 11s, and also very not my style. It was I made roasted potatoes that taste like Arby's curly fries, and I was like, they did pretty well on TikTok, so I said my next level, my growth is to make things taste like a Taki.
I love that.
Who knew Takis are just tahini?
Oh, really?
That does sound kind of correct.
When you're trying to make Taki flavoring at home, you're really just trying to make spicier tahini.
Yeah. Next one, mini mimosa bread pudding.
In my
The
defense,
brunch is their brunch phase, the brunch era.
the recipe works.
Oh, okay.
So let's put it at 7.
You've got 3, 4, 6, and 7.
I still have like 3 and 4 left.
3, 4, 6, and 7.
Do you know what's coming up to? Because I was like, if she remembers her first 10, I'm going to be surprised because there's no way I would ever remember.
I remember the images. So as they come back, I'm like, oh, I know the image that I took of this.
Yeah.
But I don't know what's coming, which is why this is so fun for all of us.
I feel like this is maybe the closest to torture one of these games has been yet, so I apologize.
Oh, this is the best podcast I've been on because I've never been this uncomfortable. Okay. Next. I'm ready.
Everything but the bagel wraps.
Ooh, okay. We'll put these in 4. I'm rating these based not on like flavor, but like how well they worked. And like that will get you a subpar tortilla with sesame seeds and garlic and onion in it.
Okay.
Which
Tasty.
could just be a subpar tortilla.
Yeah. Yeah.
So is that all it is? It's a tortilla with seasonings on it?
Yeah.
Oh, all right.
Bryn, I was not incredibly advanced at this time.
I don't have context on these. Sarah prepared this game. I just wanted to know, and I'm sure the people at home do too.
Fair. And everything but the bagel wrap is a whole wheat tortilla with everything but the bagel seasoning in it.
Oh, got it.
Okay, ready?
Okay. Yeah.
Sweet potato pie fritters.
Oh. Okay.
Is that a good?
No, I remember these. These have tea drama.
Oh, really?
Okay.
So this was back in like early TikTok days. I probably had like 8,000 followers, but I was still very interested in growth. You know, everybody's thirsty at the right time. And so,
Especially during the pandemic, yeah.
Especially during the pandemic. And for context for people who are not familiar with the recipe, one of them sitting on this couch, you take a mashed sweet potato and you put flour in it and something else, essentially making it into what, if you took it a little bit further, could be a gnocchi, but like a pliable sweet potato that I stuffed marshmallows in the center and then grilled it like a little burger. I thought this was like the peak of innovation at the time. And so I do the video, it does medium, and then a TikToker with like 1 million followers at the time, which was a big deal, takes that video verbatim, script and all, and recreates it.
Name names, let's go.
No. Because I'm more famous at current time.
Okay, great. We love that.
Wow. Cocky and horrible. Anyway, I DM her being like, my feelings are so hurt. And I never got a response.
Really? So this person just straight up swooped your whole recipe.
Swooped it, but
no apology.
No apology. And you know what? For that, it goes in number 6. And it was like, it's not a great recipe, but that's the drama. I remember it so vividly.
All right, last one, which I guess is going to get the third place. Elote grilled cheese.
I mean, that sounds amazing.
Deserves it. That's a great recipe because there's cheese on the outside of the bread. There's cheese on the inside of the bread. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, the everything but the elote Trader Joe's seasoning. Yeah, I was a big Trader Joe's girl.
That makes sense. Got it.
Yeah. This was horrible.
I'm sorry.
No, it was fun. It was fun taking a walk down memory lane with both of you. I just need to put a disclaimer. Don't make these recipes.
Any of them?
None of them?
Well, churro
What about
squares
the
sound like
churro
they fuck.
squares?
Churro squares are great. You're right. Actually, most of these recipes in the top 5 will work and you'll get a fine result. I just think after the Renaissance is when my work started, being
I
my
see.
work.
Yeah.
And this
Right.
feels like it was my original work. It's always going to have a soft spot in my heart. I mean, 5 ingredient flatbreads basically made it into the book.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for playing
Thank you for
that
putting
game
up with this.
No, that was fun. I highly suggest doing it with other creators because I now want to know. You guys do the deep dive. You do the research.
Got to do the research. Well, thank you so much, Justine, for joining us today.
Yeah, this was fun. Thank you.
It was so great to talk to you. It's so great to see you again.
Yeah, when I'm not crazed and having to hop on a
when
plane.
you're not in a fright elevator.
Is there anything else you want to say before we go? Is there anything you want to plug? Is there anything that you want people to know about that you have going on?
Honestly, I'm just excited to continue to talk about the book. Thanks for letting me give it this platform and talk about the whole process. This was fun.
Nice.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It was fun learning about it too. As people who get asked all the time to make a cookbook, it's always fun to talk to people who have done it.
But also, we critique the process a lot with sometimes limited context.
Yes.
So that's it's nice to have more context always.
All right, Justine, thank you so much for being on the show. Have a good day. We'll talk to you later.
Yeah, talk to you guys later. Bye.
Thank you again to Justine. Thanks to you for hanging out with us, whether you're listening or watching. If you want to get a question on the show, you can call 424-419-3528. That's FLAV, of course. And you can also ask questions in cultflave.com/community. The Going Off channel in there is...
Going off.
Is it? We're working on it.
Yeah.
Go ask questions. Thank you once again to Sabina and Elizabeth for asking those questions. They were great and
Excellent questions.
Incidentally perfect for this guest. So I was very excited to see those. And if you just want to go join the community,
/community.
But also, if I finish the nav, it'll be just cultflave.com because it'll probably be the homepage.
Hey. Which is really great and
Huge
going to solve a
improvement.
lot of our problems right
Oh
now.
my God. Thank you to all of you who cared enough to give us feedback. It was great. We have so much in the pipelines. It's just
Yes.
trading off time between making content and making website to support content. See you next week. You want to get out of here and get some food?
Yes. Yes, I do.
Perfect.